Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here, really. It means a lot. I don't usually give long speeches. I spend most of my time on the factory floor, in the lab, or at a launch site trying to fix problems. So when I do get a talk like this, I like to keep it real. Not corporate, not rehearsed, just honest. Because that's how progress actually happens, not in boardrooms, not in PowerPoints, but in reality. And reality is where I like to live. So today, I want to talk about something fundamental, something that goes beyond cars or rockets or AI. It's about how we work, how we think, how we move humanity forward. The title of this talk is Eliminating Negativity, Driving Performance, and Building a Culture of Truth. But really, what it's about is energy, the energy that exists inside every person here, the energy that makes a company alive, the energy that moves civilization forward. When you think about it, everything in the universe runs on energy. Stars burn it, plants absorb it, and humans, we create it. We generate energy through focus, through collaboration, through purpose. But here's the problem. Human energy is fragile. You can destroy it faster than you can build it. You can drain an entire team's spirit with one bad meeting, one toxic person, one ego that gets in the way of truth. So the question is, how do we protect that energy? How do we create an environment where people want to give their best energy every day? How do we build cultures that are fueled by optimism and execution, not fear and politics? That's what this talk is about, because I've seen it firsthand. I've seen what happens when teams operate without fear. When people trust each other enough to tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. When people are driven not by titles or status, but by the mission itself. That's when the impossible becomes possible. That's when rockets land themselves. That's when electric cars become desirable. That's when progress accelerates. So let's talk about how that happens. Let's talk about how to eliminate negativity, how to drive performance, and how to build a culture where truth, not politics, is the operating system. Because if we get that right, everything else follows. Part one, why are we here? Start with physics. Let's forget about business, forget about stocks, profits, quarters. All of that is a human-made construct. It's not real. What is real is physics. Everything obeys the laws of physics. You cannot negotiate with physics. You can't broker a better deal with thermodynamics. And one of the most fundamental laws and unavoidable truth of the universe is entropy. Entropy. It's just a fancy word for the fact that everything tends to move from order to chaos. Everything. Everything decays over time. Everything falls apart. This is true for stars. They burn out and die. It's true for, well, human bodies. We get old and, and it is definitely true for companies, and it's true for civilizations. The default is failure. The default state, the natural state of a company is death. Most companies don't make it. Most companies that have ever existed are gone. Bankrupt, acquired, or just faded into irrelevance. Most new products fail. Most ideas are bad ideas. Most civilizations, we haven't seen many, but the early signs are not great. History is full of civilizations that have collapsed. And the default state of human consciousness is to be confined to this planet, a single planet. And the default state of this planet is to eventually be hit by some extinction event, 100% certainty. It's not if, it's when. It could be an asteroid, a supervolcano, or something we create ourselves. The universe does not care about us. Entropy is winning. Chaos is winning. So if you accept those axioms that entropy always wins and the default is failure, then the next question is, what do you do about it? You can just accept it. You can just lie down and wait for the chaos. Most people do. Most companies do. Or you can fight. Our mission is to fight entropy. This is why we exist. This is why I created these companies. Not to create companies. I don't care about creating companies. I care about solving problems. I care about fighting entropy. We have two fundamental problems. The first problem is we are running a stupid and dangerous experiment with the atmosphere of the only planet we have. We are digging up and burning billions of tons of hydrocarbons that were safely sequestered underground and releasing them into the atmosphere. This is insane. We are changing the chemical composition of our atmosphere and oceans The physics is very clear on this. The result will not be good. So Tesla. Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. We have to get to a solar economy. We have to do it as fast as possible. The second problem is, even if we solve the energy problem, we are still on a single planet. We are a single point failure civilization. So SpaceX, the mission of SpaceX is to make life multiplanetary. Why? To create a backup for consciousness, an insurance policy for humanity, to ensure the long-term survival of our species and this tiny little light of consciousness, which seems pretty rare in the universe. These are not nice-to-have goals. These are not things we do to make money, though we have to not run out of money to keep going. These are moral imperatives. They are fundamentally important. We are trying to ensure the future of humanity. By defining our work this way as a physical fight against extinction and entropy, we elevate the company's goals above mundane concerns like office culture. A, high-performance culture is not an end in itself. It is a necessary tool to win this fight. Anything that increases entropy, anything that adds friction, chaos, or slows us down is the enemy. Part 2, defining the internal enemy. Our no-asshole policy. Okay, so if we agree that we are in a race against time to solve these fundamental problems, these survival-level problems, then we don't have time for things that slow us down. We cannot have time for them. We are trying to do extremely hard things. We are trying to revolutionize the auto and energy industries. We are trying to put people on Mars. These problems are hard enough on their own. The physics is hard enough. The last thing we need is man-made problems, unnecessary friction, internal chaos. This is why at SpaceX we have a strict no-assholes policy. And this applies to all my companies. Now, this is an emotional term. People don't like it. I get it. But as Robert Sutton, a professor who wrote a whole book on this pointed out, other words like bully or jerk, they don't capture the level of awfulness. Asshole is a precise word. It has emotional weight, and it needs to, because this problem is serious. What my definition of asshole is not. It's important to define this clearly, because most people get it wrong. No assholes does not mean everyone must always be nice. Kindness is overrated. I mean, it's fine, but it's not the goal. The goal is truth. The goal is velocity. The goal is solving the problem. It does not mean you can't argue. I want debate. I want people to challenge each other. I want constructive conflict about ideas. Research shows, and this is obvious, that debates about ideas, not personal debates, drive higher performance. We need the truth, and the truth often comes from conflict. It does not mean I won't give harsh feedback. I will. If your work isn't good enough, I'll tell you. If you tell me something stupid, I'll say, that's stupid. That's not a personal attack. It's an assessment of the data. We have to be honest and direct. Demanding exceptional performance, as we did at Twitter, is not asshole behavior. Demanding people work extremely hardcore is not asshole behavior. It's honesty. It's accurately describing what is required to win. We are in a war against entropy, and you don't win a war by working part-time. 2.3. What my definition of asshole is. So what is an asshole? An asshole is someone whose actions create internal entropy. They are the person who optimizes for themselves instead of for the mission. They are the person who plays internal political games. They try to make their team look good by making other teams look bad. They hoard information. They protect their turf. Gwen, the president of SpaceX, has a great definition. She says it's people who interrupt others, they derail or co-opt the conversation, and they create a hostile environment where no one wants to contribute. Let's think about that. Create a hostile environment where no one wants to contribute. What does this mean from a physics standpoint? It means you are blocking the flow of information. You are killing truth. You are preventing ideas from being surfaced. You are putting your ego as a wall between the engineers and the problem. An asshole is a person who impedes communication. They are a bottleneck. They are an information black hole. And for me, the most dangerous kind of asshole is the bureaucratic asshole. That's the person who loves rules over results. That's the person who says, no, we can't do that, because that's not the process. That's the person who insists on the stupid chain of command. The total cost of assholes. That Stanford professor, Sutton, he calls it the total cost of assholes. And he's right. An asshole is not just an annoyance. They are a productivity black hole. There's psychology research that shows negative things affect our mood 5 times more strongly than positive things. 5 times. What does that mean? It means one asshole on a team can completely neutralize the work of 5 or even 10 excellent people. They poison the environment. They kill morale. They make your best people, the ones with the most options, question why they are even here. And those good people, they will leave. They will go somewhere where they don't have to deal with that stupidity. And the worst part, assholes will hire other assholes. It spreads like a virus. They don't like to be challenged. They don't like people smarter than them, so they hire lesser people. They hire other people like them, and before you know it, your whole organization is infected. You've lost. Entropy is one. Part 3, addressing my biggest mistake. The elephant in the room. Okay, I know what some of you are thinking. But Elon, you are sometimes an asshole. And fair enough, I am. I am not the easiest person to work with. I am obsessed. I sleep on the factory floor. I push people very, very hard because I push myself harder because the mission demands it, because we are running out of time. But we talked about this. There is a fundamental difference between being demanding for the mission and being an asshole for the ego. When we were in production hell with the Model 3, yes, I was intense. It was the most stressful period of my life. The company was near death. We had bet everything on the Model 3, and it wasn't working. Why? Because the physics was wrong. We had put too much new technology into all at once. We had been too arrogant. Specifically, we had this crazy, complex network of conveyor belts, and it was not working. It was too complex. The robots actually slowed the production. So I took over the line. I slept at the factory for weeks. I wasn't yelling at people for my ego. I was trying to fix this stupid machine. We had to get rid of it. That was the truth. Sometimes the truth is harsh. That push, that intensity was objective. It was against a physics problem that was killing the company. My biggest mistake. But that doesn't mean I haven't made mistakes. I have a lot. And I want to talk about my biggest one because it's directly related to this. My biggest mistake is probably weighing too much on someone's talent and not someone's personality. I've said this before, and I really mean it. I think it matters whether someone has a good heart. This was an expensive lesson. In the early days of SpaceX, of Tesla, I was so desperate for talent. I would forgive someone being an asshole if they were brilliant, the so-called brilliant jerk, and it was always a mistake. Every single time. The math of the brilliant joke doesn't work. Here's why. It's just simple math. You have an engineer, a mythical 10x engineer, right? Although in reality, a truly great person might be 2 or 3 times as productive as a good one. Okay, great. But they're an asshole. They belittle their colleagues. They interrupt in meetings. They don't share information. They are toxic. They create an environment where no one wants to be around them. So their own productivity is plus 200%. But they reduce the productivity of 10 people around them by 20% each. The math is simple. Plus 200% minus is 0. Or worse, negative. Their net productivity is negative. Even if they are a true genius, like someone I don't know, like William Shockley, who invented the transistor, a genius, but also a terrible racist and an awful person. He had trouble seeing people, and the balance failed. His best people left. They founded Fairchild Semiconductor. They founded Intel. They created all of Silicon Valley, and Shockley's company failed. The brilliant jerk is a net loss. Your company will rot from the inside. A good heart is an engineering variable. So when I say I look for a good heart, That's not a platitude. It's not sentimental nonsense. It is an engineering variable. What does a good heart mean? It means they genuinely care about the mission. It means they are not driven by ego. It means when they make a mistake, they admit it. They don't cover it up. It means they help their teammates. They share information. They put the mission above their ego. A talented person with a good heart is a perfectly aligned force vector. All 100% of their energy is aimed at the goal. A talented person who is an asshole is a misaligned vector. They might be very powerful, but they are pushing the ship sideways. They are creating unwanted torque, or worse, pushing backward. We don't have time for misaligned vectors. We don't have the bandwidth for it. We fire them fast. At my companies, we treat certified assholes as incompetent employees because in terms of net organizational output, they are incompetent. The anti-asshole operating system, a company is an operating system. So how do you build an organization that can resist entropy? How do you stop the asshole viruses? It's not just a policy. It's not a poster on the wall. You can't just say the rule. You have to write it down and act on it. You have to design it into the operating system of the company, into the fundamental algorithms of how we work. Our algorithms are designed not just to do the work, they are designed to expose the assholes. They are cultural diagnostic tools. Algorithm 1, the hardcore filter and talent density, starts at the front door. It starts with hiring. I've said this before, talent density matters more than head count. Big companies, as they grow, they get bloated. They start hiring tons of people just to fill positions. This is stupid. Numbers will never compensate for talent. 2 people who don't know something are no better than 1. They just slow things down. They create more layers of management, more bureaucracy, more friction, and they make the company incredibly expensive. We want small elite teams of excellent people, like a special forces team. Everyone is there for a reason. Everyone is high performance. This is why at Twitter I sent that email, the hardcore email. The anti-asshole operating system, a company is an operating system. So how do you build an organization that can resist entropy? How do you stop the asshole viruses? It's not just a policy, it's not a poster on the wall. You can't just say the rule. You have to write it down and act on it. You have to design it into the operating system of the company, into the fundamental algorithms of how we work. Our algorithms are designed not just to do the work, they are designed to expose the assholes. They are cultural diagnostic tools. So algorithm 1, the hardcore filter and talent density. It starts at the front door. It starts with hiring. And I've said this before, talent density matters more than headcount. Big companies, as they grow, they get bloated. They start hiring tons of people just to fill positions. This is stupid. Numbers will never compensate for talent. 2 people who don't know something are no better than 1. They just slow things down. They create more layers of management, more bureaucracy, more friction, and they make the company incredibly expensive. We want small elite teams of excellent people, like a special forces team. Everyone is there for a reason. Everyone is high performance. This is why at Twitter I sent that email, the hardcore email. I said and I'll quote it, "To build a breakthrough Twitter 2 and succeed in an increasingly competitive world, we will need to be extremely hardcore. This will mean working long hours at high intensity. Only exceptional performance will constitute a passing grade." That was not a threat. It was a filter. It was an honest offer. This is the mission. It will be incredibly hard. Are you in? A lot of people chose not to. They took severance and left, and that's fine, perfectly fine. They self-selected. They took themselves off the team. A hardcore culture is the first line of defense against assholes. Assholes, they don't like hardcore environments. It's too demanding. It's too transparent. They like places they can hide. They like bureaucracy where no one really knows who's doing what. 4.3 algorithm 2. first principles thinking. The most important algorithm we have is first principles thinking. Most people, most companies, they reason by analogy. What does that mean? It means they copy what other people do with slight variations. They look at the competitor. They look at how it's always been done, and they just try to make it a little better. Reasoning by analogy is the breeding ground for assholes. Why? Because it discourages thinking. It rewards following the process over getting the result. It allows assholes to say things like, well, that's the industry standard, who cares? First principles it's the physics approach. You boil things down to the most fundamental truths, what you know to be true, and then you build back up from there. I'll give you the classic example, batteries. People for years, they said batteries are expensive, $600 per kilowatt hour, and they always will be. That's an analogy. They just looked at the price of past battery packs and extrapolated first principles as, okay, forget that. What are batteries made of? Well, it's got cobalt, nickel, aluminum, carbon, some polymers for separation, and a steel can. Okay, what is the value of those materials on the London Metal Exchange? When we calculated it, it was about $80 per kilowatt hour. So you have a giant gap between $80 and $600. All you have to do is figure out clever ways to take those materials and combine them into the shape of a battery cell. And that's exactly what we did. We figured out how to build them from the raw materials. Same with rockets. When I started SpaceX, I went to Russia trying to buy a decommissioned ICBM. They wanted $65 million for one. It was insane. So first principles. What is a rocket made of? Aerospace-grade aluminum alloys, some titanium, copper, carbon fiber. What is the raw material cost? It turned out it was about 2% of the price, 2%. So I decided it would be cheaper if we built them ourselves. So we did. And Oswald hates this conversation. They can't operate at this level. They can't defend their idea based on physics. They can't justify the $600 price when the materials cost $80. So what do? They hide. They hide behind their expertise. They hide behind jargon. They use complex acronyms. They try to make you feel stupid for asking the basic question. When you see someone do that, that is an asshole. They are using complexity as a shield to hide their lack of understanding. They are creating algorithm 3, the 5-step process. We distill this first principles thinking into a 5-step algorithm that we try to apply rigorously at SpaceX. And Tesla, it works like this. Step 1, make the requirements less dumb. Your requirements are definitely dumb. It does not matter who gave them to you, even if they came from me, especially if they came from me. You must question every requirement. Every requirement must come with a person responsible for it, not a department, a person. So you can go and talk to that person and ask, why do you need this? Does this make sense? Assholes, they love dumb requirements. They create them, they protect them. It's their source of power. Step 2, delete the part of process. This is the most important step. The best part is no part. The best process is no process. You should have a very strong bias towards deleting things. If you are not adding parts back, at least 10% of the time you are not deleting enough. Assholes, they never delete anything. Their turf, their job is defined by the part they own or the process they manage. Delete it and you delete them. They will fight you to the death to keep a stupid part that shouldn't exist. Step 3, simplify or optimize. The most common error of a smart engineer is to optimize a thing that should not exist. They skipped. Step 2, they just jump right to trying to make a bad idea a little more efficient. Don't do that. Only simplify after you have tried your hardest to delete. Step 4, accelerate cycle time. When you are sure you are not digging your own grave, then dig faster. We have to move fast. Speed is our biggest competitive advantage. Step 5, automate. Last, automate. Don't automate something you haven't simplified. Don't automate something you should have deleted. We made this mistake painfully in production hell. We automated stupid things, and it almost killed us. This 5-step OS is an anti-asshole algorithm. A bureaucratic asshole cannot survive in the system. They are exposed in step 1 and eliminated in step 2. Part 5, communication protocols, the enemy silos, and the chain of command. Okay, what is the natural habitat of the asshole? Assholes, they thrive in darkness. They build fiefdoms. They create silos of information. They make it hard for people to talk to each other. And their strongest weapon, their favorite tool, is the chain of command. Traditional companies, they are built like a medieval army. Information must go up the chain and down the chain. This is insanely stupid. It guarantees that information is distorted. It guarantees that decisions are slow. It gives power to the managers in the middle just because they are in the middle, not because they know things, not because they are smart, just because they are a bottleneck. It is the thing that creates the problems. 5.2, Rule 1, communication must travel the shortest path. At my companies, we have a rule, a very simple rule. Communication must travel via the shortest path necessary to get the job done, not through the chain of command. So what does this mean? It means anyone can talk to anyone else. Any engineer can talk to me. You don't need permission. You don't need to tell your manager to tell their director, to tell their VP. If to get something done, an individual contributor has to talk to their manager, who talks to a director, who talks to a VP, who talks to another VP, who talks to a director, who talks to a manager, who talks to the person actually doing the work, then super dumb things will happen, that it wastes time. It's like playing telephone. The message gets corrupted enforcement. And I want to be clear about this. This is not a suggestion. This is not a feel-good philosophy. This is a rule. Any manager who attempts to enforce chain of command communication will soon find themselves working elsewhere. Let me repeat that. If you are a manager and you stop people on your team from talking directly to another team, you will be fired. You will be fired. Why? Because you are acting like an asshole. You are blocking information. You are creating entropy. You are putting your perceived power and your ego above the mission. That is unforgivable behavior. Rule 2, leave meetings. What's the other thing assholes love? Meetings, especially long meetings. Frequent meetings. Meetings are the blight of big companies and almost always get worse over time. Our rules are simple. We have 3 rules for meetings. Get rid of large meetings. They are almost never providing value to everyone in the room, unless you are certain they are. Keep them very short. 2, get rid of frequent meetings, unless you are dealing with an extremely urgent matter. And as soon as the matter is resolved, the meeting frequency should drop dramatically. And 3, this is the most important one. This is the power transfer move. Walk out of a meeting or drop off a call as soon as it is obvious you are not adding value. It is not rude to leave. It is rude to make someone stay and waste their time. Think about that. In a traditional company, the meeting convener has the power. The attendees are captive. Leaving is seen as disrespectful. This rule reverses that. It gives the power from the meeting organizer to the attendee. Assholes, they live in meetings. That's where they do their work, which is talking. Doers, they do work. They build things. They write code. They turn wrenches. Meetings stop them from working. This rule liberates them to go do work. It breaks the asshole's power base. Part 6, case studies. Case study 1, the SpaceX open letter. I want to talk about a specific incident because it's widely misunderstood and it goes right to the heart of this. A few years ago at SpaceX, there was a group of employees who wrote an open letter. They said that my tweets on the platform I now own were a distraction and embarrassment. They circulated this letter internally, and they demanded the company condemn me and separate from my personal brand, and we fired them. People outside, they went crazy. They said, what about free speech? What about the no asshole policy? You are the assholes. They got the problem backwards, completely backwards. Let's look at this. Gwen sent an email to the whole company after. What did she say? She said, and I'm quoting, "The letter, the solicitations, and general process made employees feel uncomfortable, intimidated, and bullied. The letter writers violated our no asshole policy." Remember Gwen's definition? Creating a hostile environment where no one wants to contribute. That is exactly what they did. They were pressuring people throughout the company to sign on to something that did not reflect their views. They were trying to impose their political ideology on the entire company. That is overreaching activism. It was a significant distraction for thousands of people who were trying to get astronauts to the space station, who were trying to get Starship to orbit, who were trying to get us to Mars. We have too much critical work to accomplish and no need for this kind of activism. They put their personal feelings and their politics above the mission. They created massive friction. They wasted everyone's time. By our definition, they were acting as assholes. And they were fired. That is not a contradiction of the policy. That is the policy at work. Case study 2, intense versus asshole. I'll tell you 2 other stories to make the distinction clear. There's this anecdote about my longtime assistant, Mary Beth Brown. She worked with me 12 years. The story goes, she came to me, she asked for a significant raise, and according to the story, I told her to take 2 weeks off while I assumed her responsibilities to see if she was really critical. Turned out she wasn't, and I fired her. Sounds harsh. The truth is, I did have her try that test, and she failed it. The position was not necessary. So I offered her another position in the company. She chose not to take it and left. That might seem intense, but it's first principles thinking. Is this role necessary for the mission? The answer was no. Step 2, delete the part. It wasn't personal. It was about efficiency. It was about organizational physics. Now, compare that to a guy I fired at Twitter, Harold Thorleifson, Halley. This guy, we fired him in the big layoffs. And he tweeted at me publicly saying he didn't know if he was still employed. And I mocked him. I tweeted back something stupid like, "This guy did no actual work." I questioned his disability. It was terrible. Turns out I was wrong. I'd been given bad information, very bad. He was a good person. He had worked hard. He did good work. I was mistaken. And when I realized that, what did I do? I publicly apologized. I tweeted an apology. I called him. I talked to him. We worked it out. I offered him his job back. He declined, which fair enough. This is the difference. My action initially was asshole behavior, no question. But it didn't come from malice. It came from bad information. When the truth was presented, I corrected. I adjusted to the truth. A true asshole, a certified asshole, would never apologize. They would double down. They can't admit they're wrong. Their ego is more important than the truth. See? Part 7, conclusion, the culture of builders. This culture is not for everyone. Listen carefully. What I'm describing here, it's not easy, it's not soft, it's not comfortable, it's not nice. If you're looking for a company that makes you feel good all the time, that gives you a beanbag and a smoothie bar, that talks a lot about balance, this is not that place. If you want comfort, go somewhere else. If you want certainty, go somewhere else. If you want to clock out and forget about your work, go somewhere else. This place, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, XAI, whatever company you're in, this is extremely hardcore. It will test you. It will break you down. It will ask for everything you've got and then a little more. We have what I call production hell, and we've had it many times. We will have it again. When I say hell, I mean sleepless nights, failed launches, broken prototypes, exploding engines, burnt out chips, systems that crash at 3 a.m. when you thought everything was fine. That's what it means. We've blown up rockets, not one, not too many. We've built cars that nearly bankrupted us. We've made mistakes that could have destroyed everything. But here's the thing. That's what it takes to build something that actually matters. If you are afraid to fail, you cannot innovate. If you want guarantees, you cannot change the world. And so here's the truth here. Failure is an option. In fact, if things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. Because the only way to reach the limit of what's possible is to push past it. And that means sometimes things will break. We are not trying to make incremental improvements. We are not here to do what's safe. We are here to expand what's possible for humanity. We are trying to make the future better, to keep the light of consciousness alive, to make sure humanity doesn't end in the dark. That's the mission. That's the cost. And that's why this culture is not for everyone. We are a professional sports team. Think of this company not as a family, but as a professional sports team. That's an important distinction. Families accept you no matter what. Sports teams do not. If you stop performing, you get benched. If you stop caring, you get replaced. And that's not cruelty. That's how teams win championships. Think about the All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team. They are the most successful sports team in history. And they have one rule, one that I think about a lot. No assholes. They believe that better people make better All Blacks. They believe that no one is bigger than the team. They believe that talent means nothing if your attitude destroys cohesion. They are ruthless about it. They've cut some of the best players in the country because those players were toxic, because they put their ego above the mission. That's who we are. That's how we operate. I don't care if you're the best engineer in the world. I don't care if you're a sales genius or a legendary coder or a 10-time award winner. If you destroy morale, if you lie, if you take credit for someone else's work, if you treat people badly, you are gone. Because being great technically is not enough. You also need integrity, you need humility, you need to be able to work with others towards something bigger than yourself. The no assholes policy is not a slogan. It's not about being nice. It's about physics, about removing friction. Every negative person slows down the velocity of the team. Every ego adds drag. And in a company that's trying to reach escape velocity, to literally leave the planet drag is death. So yes, we're a professional sports team. We play to win. We train hard. We practice harder. We celebrate victories, and we learn from every loss. And when we go into the field or the launch pad, we do it together as one team. The choice now, here's the choice. You can go work at a normal company, and there's nothing wrong with that. Most companies are normal. Most people choose comfort over challenge, safety over struggle. You can go to a place with predictable hours, predictable meetings, predictable politics. You can sit through long PowerPoints, talk about synergy, collect your paycheck, and go home. That's fine. The world needs that, too. But if you stay here, understand what you're signing up for. You are signing up for the hardest work of your life. You are signing up for sleepless nights and impossible problems. You are signing up to get punched in the gut by reality and still get up the next morning ready to solve it again. You are signing up to use first principles thinking every day, to break things down to their fundamentals and rebuild them better, to reject bureaucracy, to reject hierarchy, to communicate directly, clearly, and honestly, because that's the only way to move fast. Here we don't have time for politics. We don't have time for fake people. We don't have time for assholes. The no asshole rule is not about feelings. It's a physical law. It's a weapon in our war for velocity, because we are fighting entropy, the tendency of everything in the universe to decay, to slow down, to collapse. We are fighting that. Our mission, whether it's through rockets, cars, solar, AI, or anything else, is to push back against entropy, to create order out of chaos, to keep the light of consciousness burning just a little bit longer. We are here to build the future, not just talk about it. To make humanity a little more capable, a little more awake, a little more resilient against the darkness. So when I say this culture isn't for everyone, I mean it. It's not supposed to be. But for those of you who stay, for those who choose the pain, the struggle, the mission, you will look back someday and realize you were part of something that actually mattered. We are not just making cars or rockets or chips. We are making history. We are making a future worth living in, and that's the reason we do this. Thank you.